So I've been testing Cartethyia for the past 24 hours and she does incredible damage, but only if you know a few tricks to play her properly. In case you're new here, welcome to Cartethia's character breakdown video, which belongs to the character breakdown series, where we build and test your favorite resonators to provide you with the most effective ways to use them in Withering Waves. I'll not only be covering the basics of her kit like a generic guide, but we'll go deeper into pros and cons of certain abilities, tips and tricks that you can use to properly manage your error erosion stacks application and consumption, especially without Chakona, to do more damage, and best rotations with different team compositions. If this video provides value to you in any way, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel because it helps me out tremendously. Without further ado, let's get into it. Cartethyia basic attacks. Cartethyia can perform 4 basic attack animations. This is stage 1, this is stage 2, stage 3, and finally stage 4. All the basic attack stages are considered as basic attack damage, and the 4th stage will apply 1 stack of error erosion. Continuously spamming basic attack stage 4 will add additional stacks of error erosion, as you guys can see right here. You can see here that stage 4 placed a Sword Shadow 2 on the ground, which provides buffs to Fleur-de-Lis. The buffs will be explained in the liberation section of this video to prevent any confusion. Cartethyia heavy attack and intro skill. Cartethia's heavy attack, which is considered as basic attack damage, and her intro skill will summon Sword Shadow 1, which provides buffs for Fleur-de-Lis. Keep in mind that the intro skill will apply 2 stacks of error erosion. Cartethyia mid-air attacks. You can recall or consume all her Sword Shadows to activate the Fleur-de-Lis buffs by simply plunging on the ground while in mid-air. Plunging to recall or consume the Sword Shadows will deal their respective damage, as you can see right here in Cartethia's basic attack damage scalings, which are pretty decent. Cartethyia Resonance skill. Casting Resonance skill will deal basic attack damage. Apply 2 stacks of error erosion and summon Sword Shadow 3, which lifts her up in the air, where you can press your basic attack to plunge and consume all the Sword Shadows that you had on the ground. So to easily obtain and consume all the Sword Shadows, you need an intro skill, spam basic attacks up to stage 4, skill, and finally plunge to consume all the Sword Shadows. Another variation without an intro skill is to perform basic attack stage 4, skill, heavy attack, and finally plunge to consume all the Sword Shadows. Keep in mind that you don't need to hit the enemy for the Sword Shadows to be generated. Resonance liberation. Cartethyia transforms into Fleur-de-Lis and loses 50% of her HP. As you can see right here, I had 2 stacks of error erosion on the enemy. After basic attack stage 5, in the Fleur-de-Lis form, it consumed 1 stack of error erosion to trigger this error erosion damage that you can see right here, but is separate from the normal error erosion damage over time. The attacks from Fleur-de-Lis that triggers additional error erosion damage include basic attack stage 5, mid-air basic attack stage 2, and the second skill cast called May Tempest Break the Tides. Sword Shadow 2. This buff will amplify the damage over time from error erosion and reduce the 3 seconds interval before the damage will occur to about 1.5 seconds. She is the only character in the game that can trigger a lot of error erosion damage, and it gets amplified as well. If you have Chakona, it even gets buffed by 100% when you have Chakona's outro skill, Sword Shadow 3. What this buff does is increases Fleur-de-Lis anti-interruption to tank some damage and allows Fleur-de-Lis 4th basic attack, where she lifts her sword up in the air to slow down the enemies, as you guys can see right here. Another thing to keep in mind is that you can only enjoy the buffs from the Sword Shadows when Cartethyia is in Manifest, and Manifest is basically a 12 seconds duration that starts immediately after casting your Liberation to transform into Fleur-de-Lis. You can also press your Liberation button again to transform back into Cartethyia, mainly as a way to reapply error erosion on the enemy in case you don't have Chakona in multi-target situations, but it can only be done while you're in Manifest. Transforming to Cartethyia from Fleur-de-Lis will pause Manifest, and transforming back to Fleur-de-Lis will resume the 12 seconds timer for Manifest. Forte circuit. You could only use Cartethia's Forte circuit when she transforms into Fleur-de-Lis. In this state, she gains access to a Forte bar, as you can see right here, which you can fill up by doing heavy attacks, basic attacks, mid-air attacks, and her special resonance skill 1 and 2. There are 2 advanced combos that you can pull off with the Fleur-de-Lis form to fill full Forte stacks depending on the teams that you're running. Let's start with the simple ones. Spamming basic attacks will regenerate about half of her Forte stacks after basic attack stage 5, but you don't gain additional damage from mid-air attacks and resonance skills. The next combo is simple mid-air attacks, which you can execute by jumping and spamming basic attacks. Now let's combine everything together to chain even more satisfying combos. The first advanced combo combines mid-air attack and ground basic attacks together. All you need to do is to press skill, which sends her up in the air, and spam basic attacks. When she plunges on the ground, she will immediately start her ground basic attacks from stage 3 and then proceed to ground basic attack stage 5. After stage 5, use the second skill and spam basic attacks, which will start the ground combo from stage 3 up to stage 5. This combo is good for Chakona teams since it utilizes all the aspects of her Forte circuit to deal the highest damage within a short period of time. Do keep in mind that the first resonance skill cast can group multi-target enemies, which can be useful in Whimper and Waste. The second advanced combo combines mid-air and ground basic attacks as well, but you have to use a heavy attack and spam basic attacks. After the plunge animation, she'll start her ground basic attacks from stage 3 up to stage 5. This is good for non-Chakona teams because it limits the area erosion stacks consumption for the liberation finisher to hit much harder while providing a decent damage output from basic attacks. When Forte bar is full, you can use a liberation finisher to do massive damage. Keep in mind that all the damage sources from the Fleur-de-Lis mode except the area erosion damage that she can trigger, as I explained earlier in the Sword Shadow 2 section, skills of their default scalings such as basic attack damage, liberation damage, heavy attack damage, and resonance skill damage. However, because of this passive, which amplifies all her damage sources based on the number of area erosion stacks that she has, your top priority is to keep as much area erosion stacks as you can on the enemy. Build. For weapons, I already covered them in detail in her weapon pool value analysis video, but to go over them briefly, here are your best alternatives. Red Spring should be your first priority due to the crit rate substat and the 30% basic attack damage bonus it provides from the second part of the passive. Your second priority is Emerald of Genesis due to the crit rate substat and the energy regen it provides from the passive to ensure that you get your liberation back up very quickly. Your third priority is the Blazing Brilliance due to the 48% crit damage that it provides, which is actually much higher than the crit damage you'll find on a 4-cost Echo, so it can be used as a stat stick. The last weapon option is the Guardian Sword due to the HP substat, and it can be crafted at Way's shop. That pretty much sums up her weapon options. For Echo formation, those running her weapon and the Guardian Sword should be running the 4-4-1-1-1. One of the 4 costs will be crit rates and the other one will be crit damage. The one cost will be HP percent. Your top priority is to get at least 38k to 50k HP for a decent damage output. The talent priority will be Forte Circuit, Liberation, Basic Attacks, Skill, and then Intro Skill. Team Building. Cartethia's passive that amplifies her damage based on how many area erosion stacks that you have on the enemy makes her and Arrow Rover inseparable due to Arrow Rover's outro that increases the maximum area erosion stacks to 6 instead of 3. She also has a passive that increases Rover's anti-interruption and grants additional Forte stacks for Rover when they cast their liberation to ensure fast and smooth rotations. Rover should be using the Windward Pilgrimage set as well, even if you don't have Chakona, because Cartethyia can take care of the area erosion stacks application so that Rover can benefit from the 30% area damage bonus and the crit rates that it provides. But I'm currently running 2-piece sets because I'm out of resources. Hence, your teams will change based on who you put in the third slot. My recommendation will be Chakona as the first priority, but if you don't have her, you can run Showkeeper as the second priority for the damage amplification and additional crit stats buffs. The third viable option for those who do not have Showkeeper will be Alto or Sanhua due to the damage amplification that they can provide from their outro skills, but Sanhua is much easier to play with, so if you prefer comfortability, go with Sanhua. I already made a video showcasing their team rotations, so be sure to check it out if you haven't done so already. Rotations. To keep this video short, I'll be covering the Showkeeper and Chakona team rotations, but I'll break down the rest of the team rotations in a separate video. Let's begin with the Chakona team rotation. Here's the build that I'm currently running. We first start by building Concerto Energy on Rover. Use her skill and do basic attacks until she plunges on the ground. Skill again and spam basic attacks. Now use her Liberation, which will fully fill your Forte stacks, so you can now press her skill twice to use her Forte circuit and intro with Chocona. Spam basic attacks until she performs a solo concert, but the moment she jumps right here to perform the solo concert, press jump and spam basic attacks to follow up with another solo concert. I dash here to cancel the second solo concert animation. If you can't manage this, just press skill after the first solo concert and spam basic attacks. Now heavy attack to use our Forte circuit, echo skill, resonance skill, and liberation. Intro with Cartethyia, basic attack stage 4, resonance skill, and plunge. Now use our liberation, skill, spam basic attacks until she finishes basic attack stage 5. After that, use the second skill cast and follow up with basic attacks, which will start from stage 3 up to stage 5. You can use your echo skill in the middle of the basic attacks as I did here. Now you can see here that I actually waited for the Sith Era Erosion stack application from Chocona's Liberation to get applied on the enemy before I used the Liberation finisher, because special animations like the Liberation finisher actually pauses everything your characters are doing on the field. Now use our Liberation finisher to end the rotation. For the Shopkeeper team, I recommend running 2-piece Moonlit and 2-piece Rejuvenating Glow with Impermanence Heron as your main echo for the 12% damage boost that it provides, but this means that we can only outro from Shopkeeper to Cartethyia, so be sure to keep that in mind. Since we're not using Chocona, we also need to modify our rotations in such a way that we'll get 6 Era Erosion stacks applied on the enemy before Fleur-de-Lis starts doing damage. Now, let's get into the rotations. Here I took advantage of the attack to dodge counter, which helps Shopkeeper build some Concerto Energy and full Forte stacks. Swap to Rover, use her skill and spam basic attacks, but after the plunge, swap to Cartethyia, use her skill and plunge. After the skill cast from Cartethyia, we now have a 15 seconds window to intro back to Cartethyia, which applies an additional 2 stacks of Era Erosion. And this is because Era Erosion stacks can last for 15 seconds on the enemy, regardless of the amount that you applied. Now go back to Rover, use another skill combined with basic attacks. Swap to Shopkeeper to use her Liberation. We delayed the Liberation usage because we don't want the effects to run out while Fleur-de-Lis is doing damage. Now swap to Rover, use her Liberation and press her skill to finish regenerating full Concerto Energy. Intro with Shopkeeper and use her skill, which should fully fill her Concerto Energy. Echo skill and intro with Cartethyia. Spam basic attacks to use stage 4, skill, and plunge to apply 6 Era Erosion stacks on the enemy. Now use Cartethia's Liberation, heavy attack, and spam basic attacks until you can use basic attack stage 5. Use her first skill cast now, which should fully fill her Forte stacks, and finally use her Liberation finisher. This combo ensures that you only consume 2 Era Erosion stacks so that you can have a decent amount left to use her Liberation finisher to do a lot of damage. Now intro with Shopkeeper and repeat the rotation once again. I'll keep experimenting and provide updates for these rotations in the future. That'll be all for my Cartethyia character breakdown. Hope this video provided value to you, and if it did, leave a like and subscribe to support the channel because it's free and you can always change your mind. Be sure to also join our community Discord if you're having any issues with the game or you just want a place to chill or hang out. Link will be in the video description. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye bye.